Welcome back to News 4 at 4. While more and more businesses are opening up, many people still have a lot of questions, concerns about coronavirus. And to answer some of those questions for you this afternoon, we have the Chief Medical Officer at SLU Hospital, Dr. Matt Broom. Dr. Broom, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Claire.
We will start with mass gatherings. What should people be doing if they would like to take part in protests that we are seeing, sometimes hundreds, maybe even thousands of individuals? And do you have any concerns that these big gatherings will lead to a new outbreak?
Yeah, I think that, I have concerns, as with most of the medical community, that indeed with gatherings of 1,000+ people, it can lead to another outbreak. I think for those individuals that choose to participate, doing their best to socially distance, which is obviously a challenge in a large crowd, but also wearing a mask, bringing a hand sanitizer, and being as conscious as they can, such that if they've had any symptoms themselves, they choose not to participate in those activities.
What about stores, restaurants opening up? In fact, I was out and about over the weekend. Seems like a lot more people than we've seen in weekends past out doing errands and everything. What advice do you have for folks still worried about COVID-19 but wanting to get out and do things?
Well, I think thus far in Missouri and also in St. Louis County, we've seen a noted decrease in the rate of both cases and hospitalizations, as evidenced earlier in the program. And I think we need to continue that momentum, and we got there by practicing good social distancing practices. So being out, again, wearing a mask, being mindful as far as for how often one is touching their eyes, nose, and mouth, and making sure they're using hand sanitizer. And just making the right choices. Again, if they have any symptoms, not to be going out, particularly in crowds and other stores, but then just being more conscious, I think, of those around them in this new era of COVID.
What advice do you have for parents? I'm not quite there yet. I have a young toddler, so he's not into organized sports at this time, but I know a lot of moms and dads in my neighborhood have been really talking about their kids want to get out and start playing sports and being with their friends again, but a lot of parents still fearful of exposure.
Yeah, that's a hot topic right now, as we are in the middle of what would normally be a successful baseball season for so many kids across our area and all kinds of sports, soccer, etc. I think that becomes an individual decision for parents. I know some leagues have opened and others are still on hold. Many of these sporting activities, as great as they are to get our kids out and interact more, they're really hard to do socially distant. And almost by definition, when you're exercising wearing a mask, it may lose its effectiveness and it's really uncomfortable. So I think it's something where, again, we hope and trust that those individuals on respective sporting teams aren't having any symptoms when they're re-engaging with those activities. And yet at the same time, seeing the decreasing rate and incidence in our community, I think the risk is low, but at the same time, we have to be very cautious of it.
And you have the same advice for families wanting to have a play date or maybe having your child go over to their friend's house? I mean, what kind of conversations should you be having with your kiddos, and is that something that parents should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think playdates are a little bit different in that if you have one or two children over and they've been quarantining and you've been quarantining, and I think that's easier to social distance. And I do empathize with parents and families who've really been holed up for 2 to 3 months. And the idea is that we minimize large gatherings. Sporting events and large sports, be it if it's a baseball dugout or out in the soccer field together, it's a little harder, I think, as far as to do the distancing. But I think you can find a safe solution as far as for play dates. And again, that's a communication and a conversation between those respective families and how they want to engage with that. But I do think that's a possibility for us moving forward into the summer.
Dr. Broom, thank you again for your time this afternoon. A lot of great advice for all of us trying to navigate all of this uncertainty. Thank you again.
Thank you.